Do you have goals that you want to set for the new year and resolutions that you are just determined to stick to? Trust me, I get it. Always wanting to be better, always wanting to improve. But what if I told you that you'd be better without these resolutions and goals? Why you don't need New Year's resolutions, in my opinion, is this. They take a lot of your focus off of God and can put it onto self-improvement. I'm not saying this is true in every single case, but I do believe that it can be all consuming and then become this project where you make this better version of you. I think that we can get so sidetracked by these goals. We can get hyper focused on doing the thing rather than God. We can take something that we see could be good and could be profitable, and we make it this big to do. And then slowly but surely, we drift further and further from focusing on God and spending time with Him, and we're making this time to seek out completing these goals. Not only that, but I think that sometimes setting these resolutions and goals can lead to or begin with us not seeking God in the first place. We decide that, it's the end of the year. It's the right thing to do to set these goals and set these New Year's resolutions that we're just going to stick to this year. And we don't consult Him on if these things are even what we should be focused on right now. We don't consider that sometimes that goal keeping isn't exactly the biggest focus. Maybe we need to grow in patience or in kindness or in something that we don't deem is this big, beautiful achievement outright. I think also that it makes it seems like there's one specific time for growth to occur. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the year, we're setting these goals every year. Why do we do this at the end of the year? Yes, I get it's a reflection period, but shouldn't we always be looking to be improving and growing like every single day? I think it gives it this spotlight that it shouldn't have. It should more so just be a way we live without putting these specific big goals and resolutions in mind to achieve and check off of a box. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I don't think that most people should use goal setting in a very specific and serious way all the time. Don't get me wrong. I do think that goals can be helpful, maybe even achievable a lot of the time. I just don't think that for most people, it is the most helpful thing for us to do. A lot of our goals, honestly, like I mentioned, can just draw us away from God if we are trying to force ourselves to achieve these things that we don't yet have the character to steward properly. We're pushing ourselves to do the thing and get the home and make $2 million this year and all these things. But are we growing in our character, in our conduct? Are we growing personally? Are we loving our families better? Are we loving our husbands better, children better, friends and community better? Are we doing those things? So I think that's a big thing to consider. Not only that, but if you think about it, a lot of the goals that we set are just redundant. It's stuff that actually doesn't need to be set, in my opinion, and here's why. If you're setting a goal and it's something like, I want to have a prosperous business this year and make X amount of money, or, I want to have a house, fine. Those are great in and of themselves. But why am I setting a goal to reach something that is in God's word that He wants me to walk in anyway? So if there are promises and blessings in God's word that He says, if I follow Him, if I walk with Him, these are things that He wants for His children, why am I worried about trying to set the goal to make it happen? I really shouldn't be. You really shouldn't be. Because if these are things that God has said in his word, and they align biblically with the things that he wants for us, that means that they're going to come about in the timing that he wants. They're going to come about in the way, in the season, in the fashion that he dictates, because it's his word, So yeah, like some of these goals are just obvious things. We don't have to do these goal setting ideas. Like we don't have to take a deep dive into, trying to produce things that God would already want us to have. We need to focus on understanding, okay, Lord, am I ready for you to give me these things? Because like I said, it's going to happen when he really dictates. And also I just want to give a couple of ways that I feel like goal setting can negatively affect you. And I made like a short little list. So I'm going to read these from my phone. And the first way is, one second, I'm sorry. The first way is this. It can become a point of idolatry, I think. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're putting all your focus into achieving these goals and it becomes this big end all be all, like if you don't achieve this goal, you're going to fall apart. That could be a point of idolatry for you. So if you have goals and you have resolutions that you've set, look at them and think, if I don't achieve this, will I fall apart? Would I still be pleased? Would I still think life is valuable and worth it? Would I still trust God? If the answer to any of those things is no, it could probably have become an idolatry point for you because you want this thing so bad. You put your mind focus on it. You worship it, not in a traditional sense where you're bowing down to it necessarily, but it's your focus all the time. It takes up more time than God takes up, in your thoughts, in your habits, in the activities you do to achieve these things, okay? So also, I think it can create moments of low self-esteem and failure that are illegitimate. Like I said earlier, some of these things are just things that God already wants for his children if we walk with him and are obedient and submit ourselves to him. So why would I put this feeling of failure and this feeling of low self-esteem on myself when I don't have to? Like the second we don't achieve goals, I think a lot of times it makes you want to fall apart. It makes you feel like you are the most dumbest person in the world. It makes you feel like I just can't achieve anything. I can't do anything. Like I can't even do, X, Y, and Z, whatever the goal is. And I just think that is unhealthy. I think it's a ploy of the enemy that just tries to always have us in a framework that's like, see, look at you. You're so broke down and busted. You can't do anything. Like, look at you. You're always going to be the same failure that you always been. And that's a lie of the enemy. And, we don't want to fall into traps like that where we're setting goals and we're setting ourselves up to be hurt and let down by them. I think also it can be a point of covetousness, jealousy, envy, because when you set your goals and someone else starts achieving goals that you've set, how do you look at them a lot of the time, right? That natural human inclination in us says like, I'm jealous of you. Like, I don't want anybody to be perceived as better than me. Why can they do it and I can't? We don't a lot of the time instantly rejoice for someone else's success, the same successes that we want. I'm just sorry to say it's just not true. In our fallen and wicked nature, that is not our innate fleshly nature. Now, when you have the Spirit, we have that ability to say, shut up, flesh. I'm not doing that with you. Like, we're going to celebrate our brothers and sisters, because just because God gave them something does not mean that what he said about me isn't true, just because it hasn't come yet. But yeah, like innately in that flesh, you have to fight off those feelings of covetousness and jealousy and envy. I feel like when other people are achieving things that you have been striving for year after year, and it hurts, it's painful, So That's another thing. I think it can cause issues with comparison. Going back to what I just said, you're always measuring yourself up to the next person and what they're doing and what they're achieving. It's just not healthy. I think it can also create, and these are also, some of these I researched, some of these I thought of on my own. So the ones at the bottom are some that I researched. Can create burnout and stress as you try to force your way to achieving things. Like, think about it. As soon as you start this journey of like achieving these goals and making sure you complete these resolutions, it can get absolutely exhausting. You're working yourself down to the nub. Like, you have nothing left to give at the end of every day. You're exhausted, you're burnt out, you're cranky, you're mean, you're not showing up well for yourself, you're not showing up well for others. It's just a nasty system that just continues and continues because I'm chasing this carrot, Sometimes that's what I feel like goals are like the devil dangling these carrots in our face to keep us distracted and to keep us focused on, achieving a goal that can make us look good to others and present well to society, instead of focusing on becoming the people that God made us to be. Because if we focus more on that, then by the time that He's made us into this person for a season that He said, okay, now you can steward this, we'll be like, oh, wow, that was fast, or, oh, wow, like I didn't expect that, because we're focused on God. We're focused on Him doing the work in us. But no, when we're focused on achieving things and setting goals, it creates this stressful, like I said, carrot dangling, running on a one of those hamster wheels you're never getting off, just trying to do the thing. So also, I think it can lead to like this narrow tunnel vision focus that goes along with that burnout and that stress. It leads to you seeing no other good opportunities or things in your life outside of these goals that you're trying to achieve and set. So say, great things are happening in your family. Great things are happening for you. You're eating healthier. You're getting closer to the Lord. You have more peace. You're forgiving people, but you still haven't got a house yet, or you still haven't got a car yet, or you still don't have $2 million in your bank account. So none of those things matter to you anymore. You're not thinking that those things are worth much of anything and are worth celebrating, because no, I still don't have those things yet. So why does anything else matter? And also, lastly, I think that can lead to ungratefulness if you're not achieving those goals. It goes back to what I just said. You have this narrow tunnel vision, and we're ungrateful when we don't get the things that we feel like we're supposed to have. When we're not setting and achieving these goals in the way that we saw, or in the timeline that we saw. And it's just not our job. We are not in control of meeting our goals, okay? I'm going to say that again. You are not in control of meeting your goals. And I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 3:6-7. It says, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. And this is Paul talking to the Corinthians because they were arguing over who they followed. They were like, some of them were like, I study under Apollos, and others were like, I study under Paul. And Paul's like, it doesn't matter if you study under Apollos or under me. Like, we both are doing what God has set forth for us to do. Paul said, I planted, Apollos watered, but God is the only one who can make things grow. So no one matters except for God in this equation. He's the one who makes things grow. So even though he's talking about this in a different context, this applies here because, you're not in control. Things will grow and blossom in God's timing and in the way that He sees fit for it to. And Paul goes on to say in verses 8 and 9, he's talking about the one who plants and waters. They have one purpose, and they will be rewarded for their labor, for their co-workers in God's service. Like, we are God's field and God's building. So we have one purpose. So whatever He's called for us to do here, and that can look like many different things, but our purpose is to bring glory to Him, to advance His kingdom. So that's what we should be focused on. And guess what? God is the only one who is going to make sure that you achieve all that you are made to achieve if you obey him and if you walk with him. So that should really be the focus. And just to remind you, if you watched my patience video, The Pain of Patience, I talked a lot about fruit and where it's brought forth. And I'm going to read Luke 8:15 to talk about where fruit is formed. It says, "But that on the good ground are they, which in an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it and bring forth fruit with patience." So I'm just quickly reminding you that fruit is brought forth with patience. If you have set goals and resolutions and you haven't achieved them yet, I am sorry. I know that's frustrating and it can be very stressful and just make you feel downtrodden and bad. But know that you just need to be focused on being a seed that is planted on good ground, because that is where this verse came from, the parable of the 4 seeds. And this seed is the one who's on good ground with an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keeping the word, meaning obeying, they bring forth fruit with patience. Okay, so just focus on that. Focus on being patient, trusting in the Lord, and obeying him. And going with that, I'm going to read Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." So if you focus on trusting in God and not yourself, you're going to be so much better off. You don't need to lean on what you think you see and what you think you understand, because we're quite simple people. So for us, A plus B equals C, or 1 plus 1 equals 2. But with God, he does not work like we work. So because you don't see the goals that you thought you should have achieved by now being set, to you, it seems like you haven't achieved anything. Nothing has been accomplished. And that's just absolutely not true. God is the one who will make every one of your paths straight. There's nothing that you can do to produce a straight path for yourself. Only God can do that when you submit to him and trust him in every way. So that should be comforting. It should take burden and load off of ourselves, because society will tell you that you can manufacture your goals. They say that you can manifest and create the life you want. You absolutely cannot. I am here to tell you that manifesting is a demonic notion, and as Christians, we should not subscribe to it. Here's why. If I said, I'm going to have $1 million tomorrow, but it doesn't happen. Well, what do people say when, you say the thing and then it doesn't happen? Oh, you didn't believe enough, or, oh, you didn't do this, or, oh, you didn't do that. So they try to tell you that you can create your own future and speak it into existence, but then they condemn you as soon as the thing didn't happen and tell you how what you didn't do is good enough and how you got to do this better. Absolutely not. Throw those demonic notions out the window. You don't need that. You don't need to think that, you have to manifest anything. I'm so glad that I'm not in control of my own life. I don't have to do anything. That's freeing, knowing that God is going to do the heavy lifting and that he just wants me to walk with him. He just wants me to be with him, and he will make every path straight. So be comforted by that truth. So I just want to talk a little bit about what I feel like God is actually looking for and what you should focus on holistically. Okay, so I'm going to be reading Matthew 25:14-30. This is the parable of the talents, and just showing, ultimately what the Lord is looking for in us is at least 100% return on the gifts, the talents, the spiritual gifts, the resources that he's given us in this life over our lifetime, okay? He wants us to do all that he made us to do, and, in simple terms, that looks like at least getting back a 100% return on his investment. So I'm going to start reading at verse 14. It says, "Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 bags more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the banker so that when I returned, I could have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I read that to emphasize some important points. If you notice, the guy that he gave the 5 talents to, he went out and doubled it. He got his master 5 more talents. Also, to the guy that he gave 2, he went out and doubled his as well. So that is a 100% return on the master's investment. What did he say to both of these men? He said, well done, my good and faithful servant. Why? Because they gave it all they had. Based on the capacity that the master knew that these men had, he expected them to go out, maximize what he had given them, and to bring him a great return. And that's what they did. That's the same thing that God expects out of you and me. Every gift and talent and spiritual gift and resource that you've been given, he wants you to use those to bring him all the glory that he's given you the capacity to bring him. And the good thing about it is we're all different. He made us all different with different capacities. But guess what? The one he gave the 1 talent to, this man went out and buried it. Not only that, he insulted the master and was like, I knew you were a hard man, so I buried it in the ground. But guess why he buried it? He buried it because he didn't think the master might come back, so he would take the master's money. So he thought he could get one over on the master. The master told him, I'm taking what you had and I'm giving it to the person who got 10 bags. So it's important to just remember that instead of focusing on achieving goals, let's focus on bringing God a 100% at least return on his investment over our lifetimes. And the reason I say at least is because in a similar parable about the 10 servants who got 1 mina each, some of them yielded a significant more return than 100%. And I'm going to briefly read Luke 19 verses 16 through 19. It says, the first one came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Well done, my good servant, his master replied. Because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities. The second came and said, Sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, you take charge of 5 cities. So notice that in this parable, the master gave 1 mina to each servant, and there were 10 servants, meaning all 10 of these servants had the same capacity to bring the same type of return on investment to the master. But the first guy is the one who got a well done, my good servant. He's the one who went out and he did not just get 100%. This man got 900% return on the master's investment. Okay. He said, your mina has earned 10 more. So he maximized everything he had to his capacity. And for him, that was 900%. Well, the same should have been true for the rest of the servants because they all received the same mina. They did not receive things differently based on their capacity, like in the first parable we're focused on. So the second servant went out and he said, Master, your mina has gained 5 more. So he yielded 400%, which when you think about it, it's amazing. It's like, wow, he did really great. But he did not get a well done. The master just said to him, you take charge of 5 cities. So he was rewarded, but he didn't get a well done because he did not take things as far as he could take it based on the capacity that the master had given him. And so if we focus more on becoming the people that God made us to be, Lord, search me, know me, reveal any offensive way in me. If we're more focused on just striving to know him better and serve him better, grow in kindness and gentleness, meekness, self-control, and peace, and love and joy. You know what I'm saying? If we're growing in relationship with him and reading the word more and spending more time with him and just becoming people who need, crave, want to grow in the Lord every day, every week, month, and year, then what should ultimately happen at the end of our lives is when we get to judgment, the Lord should look at us and he should be able to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Why? Because we died empty. So if you're going to have a goal at all, like I said, I don't recommend them, but if you're going to have a goal at all, make it be this. You want to be the person who walks through life growing year over year. You want to be better than you were last year. You want to next year be even better and better and better every single year. Because the better and better you get every single year, the more that by the end of your life, there's a great chance that you're going to die empty, meaning you're going to die have given God everything that he gave you the capacity to go out and do and return it to him by advancing his kingdom, helping his people, loving people well. So yeah, that's what I say focus on. Just focus on being better year over year. Focus on giving him the return that he dictated that you should give him. Like I said, it's different for every person, which is also a blessing because my creator knows how much I'm capable of. And it's not going to look like the next person's. It's going to look like what he set for me. So that's my comfort to you. Focus on being who God made you to be. Focus on growing in him, knowing him, and watch what happens if you just continue in this path of growing year over year. My prayer is that at the end, I and you get a well done, my good and faithful servant. And that is much more of a reward, being in great community with Jesus, with the Father, because we gave him all we had versus achieving some flimsy goals on earth that we've set for ourselves here and now. Okay, so I love you. I hope that you have had a wonderful Christmas with your family and just are encouraged as you start the new year. So keep pushing and growing, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Praise God.